Hello, everybody. It's Dave Neal, stand-up comic and host of Bachelor Nation News. Why Gabi stayed? She said for sure he wasn't picking me. So Gabi explains to grocery store Joe why on the Bachelor finale this past Monday, she decided to brave it out and take it all the way to the finish line, knowing she was not going to be winning. It's a very fascinating take. I'd love to know what you guys think. Follow me on Instagram at DNeals, patreon.com/Dave Neal. I'll be live this morning at 10:15 Pacific Standard Time if you want to be a part of that. And also Bachelor Rush Hour, the podcast. Every afternoon, we've got your afternoon podcast with unique content. I will be including my American Idol favorite performances of last night. I will be including those if you want to listen along. Bachelor Rush Hour with Dave Neal. You can click bachelorrushhour.com to catch up on all past episodes. Big thanks to Times Chick for commenting honest and real, unlike the actual show. Your podcast is a great one and always manages to keep it real versus Becca and Michelle, as you said, scrambling for content. All right, we got a whole podcast war here. Today's show is fire. It's jam-packed with truths on issues we all care and likely agree about. What's to disagree with? Not one thing that I heard. At 1.75 times the speed, Dave Neal has a magically logical way of making points. Listen, I talk fast. If you're listening to me at 1.75x speed, God bless you. Okay, why Gabi didn't self-eliminate after her heartbreaking defeat on this episode of The Bachelor. Let's listen to what she has to say with grocery store Joe.
You had said, so now you're there, final two, and I know a lot of people are saying, like, if you knew it was going to be Katie, because we do only see, unfortunately, and I'm sure it wasn't just self-doubt. But that's kind of what we see, and you saying, like, I know it's going to be Katie. So a lot of people are saying, well, why didn't you just self-eliminate?
Grocery store Joe is like the detective in Bachelor Nation. Doesn't he just come off like some gritty Chicago cop? Why didn't you just self-eliminate? You knew it wasn't going to be you.
In that rose ceremony, when he was only speaking to Katie and he wasn't making eye contact with me, it was a really isolating feeling. And in that moment, I knew it was not me, because anyone who loved me and wanted it to be me wouldn't speak of something that was a special moment in that way. And I understand he was speaking about his parameter and the mistake he made by setting that parameter. However, there was like a level of like these words are really like mean. Like, why are you saying these words? They're so mean. And I knew that it was not me. And so when I met his family, I felt so much love, but I think I was craving my family so badly.
And this perfectly exhibits why the show manufactures love. They strip away your normalcy. She said she was craving her family so much that she sort of attached herself to Zach's family. You ever seen one of those things where there's like an abandoned kid, a video, there's like abandoned animal, and it's like an abandoned zebra, and then it's like being raised by an elephant. It's like, well, you just want some comfort there. And the elephant in the room was Zach's family.
I just wanted to be home with like the people I loved. And I could feel the love in his family. Like, they are a very close family. It reminded me so much of my family, and I felt very in love in that moment. But I don't know if I was just so craving like my family that I just needed any kind of love.
Yes.
And so on that date on the beach, I knew for sure it's not you. And I said that, but I also thought about my friendship with Katie, and I've hesitated saying this, but
here's where it gets a little, I don't want to call it nutty, but hard to believe. She said, I've hesitated saying this.
I think it is important to know why I did stay. And I thought about my relationship with Katie and if I were in her shoes, and it was clear Katie was the choice. Katie had been the choice, but if I had left, she could have felt like she is the choice by default, and she was truly the choice. And I never wanted her to feel like, well, Gabi left, so he had to choose me.
All right, so let me get this straight. And all right, I'm going to cross-examine this. I'm not saying this is not true. I'm not saying that she's full of crap here. But Gabi's saying she got heartbroken on the pedestal or whatever the hell you want to call it, the altar. She got heartbroken on the throne so that Katie could understand that she was the one. Okay. I mean, altruistic. I like it.
Because no, he was always choosing Katie. And the only reason I would have left is because I knew he was choosing Katie, but I didn't want her to feel any kind of doubt when he proposed to her and she watched it all back.
Wow, that's very commendable of you. That is a sign of a very good person. I would like to think that I would do something very similar to that. I don't know about in the moment, but I respect that, and I believe you, because if I thought you were full of shit, I would say it. So yeah, well, good for you.
Good for you, he says. All right, you get the grocery store approval. What do you guys think? Leave a comment. Let me know. I mean, I guess if you're Gabi, you probably think several things. And I'm sure the producers tell her this too. I'm sure the producers say, get up there in the altar. If he doesn't propose to you, you're going to look like, I mean, at that point, right, you're already going to be as heartbroken as possible. So why not just go for it all and let the chips fall as they may? And if the audience gets to see you look even more heartbroken, at least you have their sympathy card. I guess that's the right play. And like she said, also, then Katie knows for sure she was the one. Gabi breaks down the iconic moment she was picked up in the mud. Let's watch this clip.
The moment when you did get dropped off and they dropped you off in the mud, because why not? Why not fuck with Gabi just a little more? Drop her off in the mud. And you said, make sure you don't do that to Katie.
Yeah. Obviously going into that day, I was, a little bit activated, and I knew, I knew it was not me. And so getting out, my heels sunk into the mud. I could see everyone was stressed, but like my heels literally sunk into the mud. Luckily my dress was a little bit short, so it didn't get in the mud. But I was saying that to the people who are in the production who are like, forward. Everyone thinks I was yelling at the driver. I wasn't yelling at the driver of the car.
No, I didn't make that mistake. I didn't think she was yelling at the driver. I thought she was yelling at the producers.
Speaking to production when they were like, come forward. Well, get out of the mud, So
yeah, no, that's fair.
Nope. And by the way, I don't have the photo here, but let's see if we can find it. Gabi stands in mud, Bachelor finale. She wasn't exactly like, I mean, it was wet, but it wasn't like, do we have a mud shot? You guys saw it. She wasn't sunk into the mud. It was just a wet, dirty ground. But either way, I mean, I think it's safe to say she was a little stressed about the situation, and it was not about the mud.
Nobody wants to stand in mud.
This is about to be Katie's moment where she gets out and she's happy and like excited, and like, don't make her heels sink into the mud and throw her off balance. Like, you know what? You better be invited to this wedding, because you're doing all the friend things that you need to do here.
It's a tough one. I'm really torn on whether I believe it or not, and it's fine. I mean, like, I'm sure she believes it. But yeah, really, like, is she? I wonder if Katie is gonna respond in kind the way Gabi did. Like, there must be some bitterness, right? And maybe it goes both ways. Gabi gave herself, and maybe this is a very, puritanical way of looking at it, but she gave everything she had to that relationship, and then she wasn't chosen. So there's obviously a bitterness that's going to exist with Zach no matter what. And you hate to pit people against each other, but in the end, it is that sort of competition where, like, he's picking somebody and Katie, quote unquote, wins over Gabi, although we think Gabi's fantastic. I think she would have made a great Bachelorette, although, knowing how this season was being filmed, there was too much overlap. It wasn't enough space to breathe in between seasons. But either way, would Gabi get invited to the wedding? That's where it becomes interesting, because it's like, she was in love, so she thought, with this guy. So even though she's good friends with Katie, I don't know. If I'm Gabi, maybe I'm a little busy that week.
Let's talk about the post real quick. I know all three of you women posted at the same time. What was the reasoning behind that?
I think what we wanted to just show was, we're in this together. We are the girls from this show, from this season, were all so awesome. And Katie and Ariel were two of the girls I clicked with the most from the beginning. And we were always together. We were always in each other's rooms. They were just like the girls, like we got each other. Jess was one of those girls too. Like she's just a sweetheart as well. So I got to give her a quick shout out. But I think what we wanted to show was this is painful. And I think, we all have our challenges of being, it was like we all came up with it together.
I was going to ask, was it anyone's idea, or it was all you at the same time?
I think what we wanted to do was, okay, how can we show that, like, no matter what, we are still close friends. We are in this together. We support one another because, you have so many parameters that you do have to follow up. You can't post this or you can't do this, just to keep, the secret of the show and, what's going to happen next week. But we get photos from the prior week. And so I think the point of it was just to show we are in this together. We are friends. We have each other's back. No matter what happens, no matter what, you don't know how the fans are going to react to something you say. You don't know what's going to be aired. You don't know how things are going to be edited. And I think just the point was that we have each other's back no matter what happens through the rest of this and afterwards.
Now, I know Grocery Store Joe's happily married. I made the mistake last week of saying he's engaged. He is married, but I think he and Gabi would be a good fit. I don't know. Maybe the age difference is a little too much. I don't know how it all shakes out. But either way, Gabi, look, I mean, I'm sort of like looking for cracks in the story just out of pure curiosity. Boredom got me on a Monday, but she's coming off fantastic. Gabi seems considering what she went through, the anxiety and the self-doubt, because as she mentioned before, she's like, look, I don't know if this is just a self-doubt in my head. And we've all been there where you're like, oh, I'm freaking out. But it's like also your intuition's like, yeah, they're probably not that into you. And she had to deal with all that. And I think she came out glowing. And I hope that she's all the better for that experience, and very happy that she unionized with the other ladies of the season saying, hey, we're all in this together. And I think she came out on the winning side. Let me know what you guys think. More content coming your way. I'll be on Patreon right after this at 10:15 this morning, patreon.com/Dave Neal. And also every afternoon, Bachelor Rush Hour, the podcast. You can click the link in the comment section or just go to bachelorrushhour.com.